Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, President Trump says the U.S. will resume its shipping blockade on Iran as both sides escalate a new round of attacks. Also tonight, Arizona's largest egg producer reaches $1 million settlement over fixed prices. And we'll get a monsoon forecast and hear about a new way to rank dust storm intensity. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Conflict in the Middle East continues to escalate as the U.S. fired a new round of airstrikes on Iran following Iran's attacks on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. has also resumed a naval blockade of Iranian ports while at the same time charging a 20% fee on all goods passing through the strait, which President Trump says will help pay for the U.S. blockade. For more on all this, we welcome Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Ted. Great to be with you.
Okay, so we're resuming military strikes on Iran. We're doing the blockade business. We got the 20%, the whole 9 yards. What are your thoughts?
Well, several things. I mean, the basics from the U.S. side, we do not want to have a full-scale war with Iran because that risks driving up oil and gas prices, which we don't want. At the same time, we don't want Iran to exercise control over the Strait of Hormuz. And they would charge fees and tolls, just like we're talking about right now. So we really want to see free, open navigation in and out. UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, they can all ship in and out of the Persian Gulf. That's what we'd like to see. But Iran, now that we're actually into an armed conflict, Iran is willing to hit ships, willing to try to enforce the idea that they have to go through Iranian territorial waters while they will exercise control and extract a charge. And we don't want that. So that's why we're in this tit for tat right now. We're hitting them, they're hitting shipping. We don't like it, we hit them again. They then say they're going to shut it down. Then we say we're going to shut it down. And the key point here that we have to understand, looking at this, as U.S. citizens here, exercising control over the Strait of Hormuz from a vast distance is a lot more difficult than it is for Iran to deny access to the strait simply by taking out a ship once in a while.
Shouldn't that difficulty and just the fact that the strait would come into play as prominently as it has, shouldn't that have been in some of the wargaming earlier on before these attacks even started?
Yeah, it should have been, and at least to my information, it was as well. That these sorts of things were well understood by the intelligence community and the military. They had plans for it. However, you had a couple of factors on top of that. You had Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu telling us that the entire Iranian leadership is gathered in one place at one time. We can decapitate the entire regime. It'll be great. So that was one sort of political motivation and something to take into account, although not dispositive. And the other is the US military is always prepared to escalate. We have the best military in the world, but it requires the political decision to say, we're going to go all the way. We're going to use ground troops if necessary. We're going to go in for regime change. And I don't think President Trump wants to do that. And I think he feels that the American people don't want another ground war in the Middle East. So he wasn't prepared to go all the way. That's why we now have this situation of kind of a mucky standoff.
Yeah, and the question kind of arises as to whether or not the U.S. even now has a plan. I mean, everything seems so fluid. I mean,
Yeah.
is there a solid plan? Are we playing three-dimensional chess? Are we just throwing things against the wall? What's going on?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there is a plan. I think there's a wish list. And number one on the wish list is that we keep oil and gasoline prices down at least through the midterm elections, which means avoiding a full-scale war. But that also means avoiding Iran firmly establishing control over the Strait of Hormuz. So we're trying to push back, but only push back enough to get things back to where they were and kick this down the road. As for a real plan as to how this ends up, I think President Trump genuinely wants to have a deal with this regime that keeps the Gulf open. We kick the nuclear issue down the road. We'll see what happens later. but the Iranian regime isn't going for that. They are seeing their opportunity now because we want to keep oil and gas prices down to exercise leverage by trying to shut the strait.
It's interesting you say that because the president, on numerous times in the past and even recently, has said they want to make a deal. They're desperate to make a deal. They want to make a deal. They constantly tell me they want a deal. I mean, at what point do we say, do they really want a deal?
Exactly, exactly. I'm sure that the president is telling the truth when he says that's what they say. But anyone who's had any experience dealing with people in the real world like this knows that just because they say it doesn't mean they mean it. What they what they really want is to be have their control over the strait recognized, and they want to create a regime that de facto does that. And I think in this memorandum of understanding that we signed with Iran, it actually achieved that. And then we kind of woke up to the fact that, oh, they're really doing it. We don't like that. So we cancel that. We push back. And now we're back in this tit for tat airstrikes. But the regime is going to hang on, and they're going to be like this as long as they're in power.
Is that memorandum, is that MOU, is that still alive?
Well, President Trump says it's dead, and it's certainly not being implemented by either side right now. However, it's the only thing we can come back to. So when I think we go through another week of U.S. airstrikes and trying to take some of the coastal things, the missile batteries, for example, or Carg Island, and then we don't want to use ground troops. The Iranians hit another ship and knock it out. Shippers don't want to go through the strait. I think we drift back to the terms of that memorandum as a temporary solution to get us through a period of time, through the elections.
And Kurt, it's from what you understand, I mean, so many leaders over there have been, in the U.S. phrase, decapitated. Do they have a functioning government? Do they have people in which you can deal with today, tomorrow, and next week?
What they have is a regime, and the regime is populated by people. And sometimes those people change. Sometimes they change because of natural causes, and sometimes it's unnatural causes. But they have a supreme leader who's the religious leader of the country. He is the spiritual authority and the political authority. Underneath that, they have the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which was created after the revolution to protect the regime, but it has become the de facto government of the country. They're in charge of everything. And they are generals, they are leaders, they are senior people. They lose some of them. They have, just like any military, if the general's gone, you promote the colonel up to general, and you can keep doing this. The one thing that President Trump emphasizes, where I think he's exactly right, a lot of the conventional military capabilities that Iran had before this war started, we have wiped out. So Air Force and Navy and so forth. But those are not the only factors in exercising power. They still have their proxy groups. They still have these little speed boats that they can move around. They still have mines. They have some missiles. They can hit their neighbors in the Gulf states, which then creates another global shock when that happens, and that puts pressure on us to not let that happen. So Iran still has a lot of leverage here.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, quickly, before you go, former U.S. ambassador to NATO, we had this two-day meeting over there, NATO meeting. It sounded like, allies were insulted and loyalty was demanded, and yet it looks like European countries are starting to take a bigger share of their own defense. First of all, is that true? And secondly, is that a good thing?
Yes. So in contrast to the Iranian situation, which we just discussed, which is still kind of a mess, the NATO summit and NATO as a whole is in really good shape right now. I think President Trump has succeeded in scaring our allies into spending more money. So whether you like that tactic or not, it's working. Since he first took office in 2017, European allies are spending $1 trillion more on defense than they were then. And they announced even more things at this NATO summit, including investment in defense industry, which means they're going to produce more capabilities. Money's the root, but what is the money used for? You have to use it to produce capability, and they're doing that. They also gave him some support on Iran in terms of supporting freedom of navigation. And he gave some support to Ukraine, along with our European allies, saying that they can produce Patriot missiles on license, which is good for us, good for the company that gets the licensing deal, but also good for the world because we need more Patriot missiles because missiles are flying and taking out civilians. They have to be shot down.
Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO, always a great conversation. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Such a pleasure, Ted. Thank you.
Oh my God, you went to space.
We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it.
It's incredible, from slavery to space in 4 generations.
We thought we were gonna be friends forever.
I can sell that to myself.
It's like you're going to Oz. It's glimmering, it's beautiful.
There's this whole universe out there. I want to find out how far we can go.
Tuesday night at 8 on Arizona PBS.
The search is on.
Hidden at the center of galaxies. Colossal beyond imagination.
4 million times the mass of the sun.
Incredible, supermassive black holes. Where do they come from?
They might be the key players in the universe.
And what role do they play in our black hole universe? On Nova.
Wednesday night at 8 on Arizona PBS.
Hickman's Egg Ranch, Arizona's largest egg producer, has agreed to pay a $1 million fine and donate over 3 million eggs as part of a settlement over federal and state allegations that the company conspired with others to manipulate egg prices. Howie Fisher of Capital Media Services has been covering this story. Howie, good to see you. Thanks for joining us here. Hickman's Egg, the largest egg producer in Arizona, and these are allegations that result in a settlement, correct?
Yes. They're not admitting anything. They're saying, we didn't do it, but we won't do it again. And of course, there's actually a new owner for Hickman's now, and they're saying, whatever occurred, we weren't there. This all deals with the price of groceries, the price of eggs. Normally, one thinks in terms of produce and things like that. It's sort of supply and demand. You've got a lot of eggs, prices drop, so you can move more eggs. You have fewer eggs during, let's say, the avian flu, prices go up. What they found out is that this is sort of a two-step procedure. Number one, companies like Hickman's and other companies can go ahead and bid if they need more eggs. And they go through sort of a clearinghouse, which is fine and which is legitimate. But what they also found out, and from texts, including from Glenn Hickman, is that they were telling each other, now bid up the prices, and submit a lot of bids even if you don't buy it. Because then these higher prices get reported to another company. The other company puts out at the end of the day, here are the retail prices. And then Hickman's and these other companies then get to sell to Fry's, to Smitty's, to whomever else at that higher price.
Basically manipulating the market here.
Exactly, exactly. And they were doing it, very openly. Again, using emails, using phone calls. The Federal Trade Commission had a lot of information.
This was from 2022, goes back that far back?
From 2022 till about 2024.
Okay.
In fact, is one of the things the Federal Trade Commission said is, when the prices dropped, we notified all these companies in March of 2025 that we were looking into them and oops, hey, eggs got really cheap.
Yeah, that's not a good sign there. At the time this was happening, though, Hickman's was still a family-owned operation, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They were bought by a South American conglomerate. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, even as good as my Spanish tends to be. And this is now part of a much larger international operation. But they were a family-owned operation going back to the 1940s. They used to have the farm used to be over on 99th Avenue in North, and you go out there and look at the chickens and you can buy your eggs. Obviously, as it got bigger, more corporate concerns. Now, they're not as big as the other two companies that were involved in it, but certainly they were big enough so the three of these companies decided we can manipulate the market, not just here, but there's actual text from Glenn Hickman to the others saying, we need to boost the prices in the Northeast. Great job today.
Yeah. Has there been any reaction from the Hickman family?
We have gotten absolutely nothing from the Hickman family. I reached out to them. All we got was the comment from this new company saying, this all occurred before we got here, so we will do everything to stay right with the government. We have reached out to the Hickmans. Hickmans have been very open when they want to be. For example, during the avian flu, they made it very clear, look, we had to destroy this many hens, prices will go up. But then when other things have happened, for example, negotiations over whether they have to have cage-free eggs, it's amazing how they suddenly got very silent.
Yeah, we had the Hickmans on during the avian flu episode, and everyone was covering that. And yet, I want to go back to the settlement here. This still needs court approval.
It still needs final court approval, but the judges on these things, given that this is a four-way settlement, the three companies and the Federal Trade Commission, and in fact the Attorney General's office in Arizona are all party. Everyone sort of agreed the 3.25 million eggs for charity, great deal for food banks and things like that.
Sure.
And that's only from Hickman's. It's over 50 million eggs, count the other three.
The donated eggs and the fine, whether it's $1 million or more for some of the bigger companies, critics are already saying this is basically the cost of doing business for some of these firms.
But this occurs every time you get a settlement, and usually it ends up going to pay the lawyers or something else.
Right.
But that's just the issue. Either we could continue to litigate it, and given that Glenn Hickman is no longer running the company, given the new company wants a settlement, say, what is it going to take to get us out of here and we can move forward? And given the fact that, as the FTC said, once we started investigating, all of a sudden, those $6 a dozen eggs went down to around $2.
Another curiosity is how much the price of eggs factored into the previous presidential election and national elections in 2024. 2022 to 2025, this was going on during the elections. I mean, this had an impact beyond just the price of eggs.
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, look at even the elections going on now. Look at the elections here in Arizona in terms of, who's in favor of higher food prices, who's in favor of higher tariffs. But this stuff all affects it. Now, do I think that the Hickman family was busy trying to go ahead and do something to help out the Trump administration? No. I think they were interested, like all these businesses, what's the bottom line? How do we get more for a dozen eggs? Given this unusual situation where it's not like we negotiate each time, you don't call up the head of Fry's or Kroger and say, hey, I've got 80,000 dozen eggs, what can I get for them?
Right.
They have agreed to pay this third-party firm that keeps track of the bidding prices, and they've said, we have agreed to pay that ahead of time, and we think that's going to be fair, until we realize it's not fair.
Howie Fisher, Capital Media Services, again, Hickman's Egg Ranch, $1 million, and then almost 3.25 million eggs to those who could use them. Howie, good story. Thanks for joining us.
You may make a hell of an omelet.
Many parts of the valley were hit with a dust storm and scattered rain last night as the monsoon looks to have settled in. We recently got a monsoon forecast as the storm season officially began last month. And we also heard about a new way to rank dust storms in terms of severity to help residents and municipalities prepare for what's blowing in the wind. Our guests, ASU climatologist Randy Cerveny and Ryan Heitzman from ASU School of Geographic Science and Urban Planning. Thank you so much for joining us. Randy, I'm going to start with you, monsoon. It starts June 15th.
Technically.
Technically. It never seems to start June 15th, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it allows us to do it the same way that they do hurricanes. I mean, we don't have usually hurricanes starting on June 1st, but that's the technical start of the hurricane season. So we've done it so that it allows time for everybody to get prepared. Normally, we're going to get our first good storms associated with the monsoon around the first week of July.
Yeah. And speaking of the forecast for the seasonal precipitation, we got a map here, some sort of graphic that you brought along, and it looks to me, at least, amateur climatologist, relatively encouraging.
It really does. It looks like we're going to have a better chance for a good monsoon than what we've had for maybe the last 2 or 3 years.
And do we know why?
Yeah, we do. It's partly a result of that big El Nino that's developing out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. As the Pacific gets warmer, it creates more hurricanes, and the moisture from those hurricanes can get pumped up the Gulf of California into us.
So when we see a map like this, what does that tell us about maybe fall and winter? Or nothing?
Well, the monsoon isn't really linked to the fall and winter, but El Nino is. And this is such a big El Nino event that's going on that, yes, we are looking for above normal wintertime and fall precipitation.
All right, and Ryan, we're going to get to you with dust storms in a second here, but I got to stick with him as far as the temperatures are concerned. You got another map here with the temperatures that we're expecting for the rest of the summer. What's that showing?
Unfortunately, that's going to be typical Arizona, that we're going to get hot. It's not maybe going to be as hot as what it's been for the last couple years, because as we get that moisture coming up the Gulf of California, we should also get more humidity. Humidity keeps the temperatures down a bit.
The northwest of the United States looks like it's in a frying pan. That has an El Nino feel to it, does it not?
It does, and that's to see that already developing in the summertime tells us that this is a very impressive El Nino that's building out in the Pacific Ocean.
All right, Ryan, with these storms we're going to get dust storms. We always get dust storms. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. But there are dust storm, you came up with ranking systems and all sorts of things. How did this come about?
It was a multi-year process. It took a while. Randy here was kind of the originator for getting all of the people together. It was about 24 stakeholders from across the Southwest that came together to try to devise this ranking scale that we've published.
Yeah, and we've got a graphic for you as well. This is the dust storm ranking intensity, and it's like a 1 to 5 deal, right?
Yep. It's tied to dust concentration. So in terms of how much dust is actually in the air, each scale that we have, each version of 1 through 5 is linked to these concentrations of dust.
And it looks like 1 is dust, but 5, and again, would that mean that 5 is the one you really got to be careful driving through, and 4 and 5 and these sorts of things?
They're all tied to a high level of dust exposure, so you wouldn't really want to be outside for a long period of time in any of these. But
yeah,
5, of course, is the most egregious, the greatest one.
Would 5 be a haboob?
They would all be dust storms or haboobs, yes. So usually we would see Category 1 is the most common one. About 60% of the dust storms that we've seen have been Category 1s, and those would still be something that would lead to high dust exposure as well as likely lower visibility as well.
Are there other variables involved here? Wind speed, how fast they're moving, that sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So there's the primary, which is dust concentrations, but we also want to think about other things that are tied to dust events, like duration, how long is this event lasting? Like the widespread or isolated, how much of the valley is actually being impacted, as well as wind gusts, which are also usually a pretty strong component of these dust events.
So you could have a storm that could cover almost the entire valley. May not be as concentrated, but because it's so big, does that get the rank up?
No, the primary scale is just dust concentration.
It's still the concentration?
Yep.
Okay, got another one here, the dust dashboard.
Yes.
What's this all about?
So this was created by some GIS specialists that we have in the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning. It's a really great tool that actually includes an archive of all of the dust events that we've looked at. So you can take a look at the stations across the valley where these dust concentrations are actually being measured and see what the peak concentration was during the event for your neighborhood.
So what do the numbers mean and what do the colors mean?
So it's a dust concentration, it's a PM10, which is about 5 times smaller than the width of the human hair. And the numbers are tied to basically the concentration of dust. It's a unit called micrograms per cubic meter. Basically, it's just a weight of dust in the air in a given volume. But 1,000 is the Category 1, and then 5,000 is Category 5.
And it's, for the colors, red, the more red, the more...
Yeah, so red or brown, darker brown is usually the scale that we see. So more red on the map, the more concentration of...
So if you're driving west and you see, you go to this thing and you say, wait a minute, there's a lot of red out there, maybe I should drive east.
So that's actually a good point. So this scale is actually going to be a post-event system. So it'll be something that we have to look at and assess, and within 24 hours we're hoping to have something posted about it.
All right, Randy, we talk about dust storms, you got ranking systems and all sorts of... What is a dust storm? I mean, can you be in one spot and see a dust storm form and move away?
Oh yeah. Basically, a dust storm is the visual kind of idea of a thunderstorm explosion. That when a thunderstorm develops, when it starts to die, it puts out a pulse of air downward, kind of like a bomb blast.
Right. When
that bomb blast hits the ground, it picks up the dust and starts to move it forward. And we see that as a haboob, as a dust wall that comes in through the valley.
And if the wind is going south to north, which it often does, here comes the dust from southern Arizona.
Absolutely. In fact, most of the dust storms that we have coming into Phoenix do originate from down towards Eloy and then work their way north.
So you can be south of Eloy or south of where and you don't need, you go bye-bye.
Yeah, you can see you'll see a thunderstorm to the north, but you may not get the big dust that's associated with it.
Yeah, and as far as dust storms are concerned, is rain always a possibility after, or can you have rain and then a dust storm?
Usually it's going to be dust storm first. You could have other thunderstorm cells that would pop up before the dust event happens, but in many cases we see the rain after the fact, and that actually pulls dust out of the air and can actually change the ranking system.
How far do the dust storms go? I mean, let's say they hit the valley. Where do they go from there?
they usually are going to spread out to the north and to the west, but it depends on where they're coming from and how strong that thunderstorm outflow boundary really is.
Because we see the haboobs coming over South Mountain, and it looks like, you know, the apocalypse and things like that. But we never see what happens up in Prescott, or do they make it? They never make it that.
Yeah, because the terrain stops it from getting up
terrain
that high.
does. Okay.
So as they work through the valley, when they hit the north side of the valley, they're going to collapse, and we're not going to have any more dust really heading out.
Last question before you go. I ask you this every year for the monsoon, and you give me the same answer every year, but I'm going to ask you again because some people haven't been watching every year. What city gets the most rain during the monsoon?
Oh, Flagstaff. Because of the uplift, that as these dust storms and thunderstorms that are created by flow that pushes up from the Gulf of California, as they hit that terrain, the rim, they get pushed up, and that's consistent. That's a daily type of thing. And in Flagstaff, they tend to get almost daily thunderstorms.
And they get them relatively early in the day compared to us. We get the dust storms late in the day.
Right.
All right. I got that all figured out. Gentlemen, good to have you here. Randy, Ryan, always a pleasure having you here, and good to have you. Yeah. Congratulations on the dust storm model. Thanks for being here. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening. I like to think that at Arizona Horizon we are unique